Right, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another reaction. Today we got Why is Ireland Divided from History Matters. They make amazing videos. Being from England, I should probably know the reason behind this. I can make my guesses, but I don't know exactly why. So yeah, let's jump straight into this and check out why Ireland is divided.
When people win their independence and break away from their colonial overlords, they normally take their entire country with them. Yet, when Ireland successfully revolted against its inclusion within the United Kingdom, it did not.
They just didn't want the people
up
up
north
north.
Remains to this day a part of the United Kingdom.
The thing is, it's such a small amount as well.
Despite it previously being administratively a part of Ireland, which raises a pretty obvious question. Why didn't Ireland take the north with it? Why is Ireland divided? Well, first of all, we need to go back to the take the north with it. Why is...
I've always thought this when I looked at maps, right? I've never actually seen like the river or what, the pond or whatever you want to call it, that's in the middle of Northern Ireland. But like, look at this, bro. This is obviously the sea, right? That would be insane to look at. I might have to get like a YouTube video of it and like actually just see what's there and like how cool that looks. I bet it looks so sick.
Well, first of all, we need to go back to the 17th century. This was when the English and Scottish thrones were held by the same man, James I. James was also the King of Ireland, at least in name, and he wanted much greater control over it.
Right.
His problem was that he was a Protestant king with Catholic subjects whom he felt were much more loyal to Rome than they were to him, mostly because they were. As such, he seized lands in the north and gave them to Protestant settlers. A process which over the centuries changed the religious demographics in the north. And over those centuries, the Protestants held much greater rights within Ireland than the majority Catholic population. Political office was reserved for Protestants, whereas Catholics couldn't own land nor could they practice their faith or speak their own language without harassment. In the early 19th century, British leadership feared rebellion and so passed numerous reform acts which gave many of these rights back to Catholics.
Fair enough.
As of the 1860s, there were those in Ireland who pushed for what was called Home Rule, which meant that Ireland would remain in the UK but with autonomy over the laws that governed it. The British said no and would continue to do so for the next 60 years.
Why is he Oh, it's different prime ministers.
Was voiced by those living in the north who didn't see themselves as Irish but as British, and so opposed anything that could potentially separate Ireland from Westminster. In 1912, the pro-British population living in the north, called Unionists, signed what was called the Ulster Covenant. This was a document signed by 500,000 people, and it essentially threatened civil war if Ireland was given any autonomy. World War I gave both sides something else to think about briefly, but during the conflict the Easter Rising broke out. This was a semi-spontaneous uprising which wasn't popular amongst the Irish and was put down quickly and brutally by the British. The brutality of the response, as well as the quick and not very professional execution of the uprising's leaders, further galvanised the Irish people against British rule. In 1918, elections were held in Ireland in which Sinn Féin, a pro-independence party, won an overwhelming victory. They created an Irish parliament and promptly declared independence, which meant war. Long story short, the Irish won, but Britain refused to give up the north due to the wishes of the majority of the people living there, and also land.
Wow, that's actually mental that like the Brits can actually still keep that when the majority of the vote was, you know what I mean?
Passed the government of
like
Ireland,
what?
Which split Ireland into two new parts of the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, which was by this point independent, and so its leaders didn't care what the British Parliament had to say about it. Northern Ireland was given these boundaries, which the British Parliament chose because they were reasonably the most that they could keep whilst guaranteeing a unionist majority there. In mid-1921, both sides agreed to a ceasefire whilst they created a lasting peace. And it was decided that Britain would recognise Irish independence on two conditions. The first was that Ireland agreed to Britain keeping the north, and second was that Ireland would retain the British monarchy. And Irish leadership agreed to these conditions. Although, why
don't just give them back the north? You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really mean anything to the Brits. Like, it didn't matter too much.
The pro-treaty side won, and after that point, the island of Ireland was divided between the two nations. And barring a drunken offer from Churchill, reunion has never come close to being a reality. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Really interesting video. Another great video from History Matters. If you guys got any videos you want me to watch, leave them down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up. Make sure you guys subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.